Hi, Year 3. I'm going to read Chapter 2 from our book, Oliver Moon and the Dragon Disaster. At magic school that morning, Mrs. McLizard, the head teacher, gathered all of the junior wizards and witches into the hall for an assembly. I'm sure you'll all have heard about this year's Festival of Magic, she said, beaming. Well, it's my great pleasure to announce that this year our school will be taking part in the Grand Parade. There was a rustle of cloaks as everyone began whispering to one another. Oliver turned to his best friend Jake, his eyes bright, brilliant. Hark, Miss McLizard's raven screeched disapprovingly. It flew down from its roost onto the curtain rail and swooped low over the heads of the students, knocking several pointy hats askew along the way. The room fell silent at once. "Thank you," Mrs. McLizard said as the raven landed on her shoulder. It pecked at a beetle that was crawling through her hair and gulped it down. "Now, where was I? Oh, yes, the parade. You'll be split into 2 groups," she went on, "and every group will have a team captain who will choose the theme. You can have music, costumes, and of course magic." She smiled so widely Oliver could see all 7 of her stumpy black teeth on display. "Let's make the whole of Cacklewick proud of our school," she cried. "Hooray!" the students all cheered, Oliver included. He was gripping his wand so tightly with excitement that it crackled a strange electric blue, and the sparks flew out like a firework. "This is going to be fun," Oliver laughed to Jake. Mrs. McLizard started dividing the school into teams. Merlin Spoonbender, the head wizard, was one of the captains, of course, and Mabel, the head witch. Oliver hoped he'd get put into either of their teams. They were both so awesome. "Pippin Prowlcat, you're with Mabel," Mrs. McLizard read from her list. "Jake Frogfreckle, you're in Merlin's team." "Yes!" Jake cheered with excitement. He got up and went over to Merlin's team at once. "Oliver Moon, you're in Snivel's team," Mrs. McLizard said. Snivel's team? Oh, Oliver wasn't very pleased about that. Snivel was one of those prefects, kind of perfect people. A bit dull, kind of, bit swatty. Oliver sighed and got to his feet, just as Bully the Bogiewort, his worst enemy, barged past him. "Looks like we're going to be teammates." Bully sneered, his yellow eyes smirking at Oliver. "Aren't you the lucky one?" Oliver's heart sank a little lower. In Snivel's team, with Bully Bogiewort, this parade had just become a lot less fun than it sounded about 5 minutes ago. On the other side of the hall, Merlin's team were gathering. Already Merlin was whirling his wand through the air and conjuring up a hovering picture of fire-breathing red dragon. "This is what we're all going to build together for the parade." Oliver heard him telling his team. They, of course, all looked wildly excited at the idea. "It's not fair," Oliver thought as he joined Snivel's group. "Why had Jake been put in Merlin's team and not him?" "Right, gang," Snivel said, twiddling his wand and only bristled beard. "My idea for theme is potion brewing." "Oh, that's a bit dull." For once, Oliver agreed. Snivel ignored the interruption. "I will be dressed as a Grandmaster Wizard," he went on, his ears turning red at the tips, "and I will lead along a huge cauldron on wheels. You lot," he said, indicating the rest of the team, "and you are going to be my ingredients." Oliver's shoulders slumped. Great, knowing he's lucky he'd end up being as dead as a bat. Whoopee. "Here's the really fun bit," Snivel said, his eyes gleaming. "Fun and educational. As we're walking along, every time I wave my wand, one more ingredient jumps into the cauldron. So at the end of the parade, you'll all be in the cauldron together. Won't that be super?" "What, so we won't get to see the rest of the parade once we're in the cauldron?" Hattie Toad's Trumpus asked, looking dismayed. "That's right," Snivel said. Yeah," he beamed. "It'll be quite something, I think. Quite something indeed." "Quite something boring, you mean?" Bully muttered under his breath. Hattie rolled her eyes at Oliver, like all they wanted to do was be stuck in a dark cauldron for the parade. "No way," Snivel hadn't finished. "Now, as the wizard, obviously, I will be the most important person," he said, puffing out his skinny chest, "and I thought it would look really exciting as every time I waved my wand, red and purple smoke streamed out of it, which then turned to red and purple paper stars." He paused as if it was exciting, a round of applause at the suggestion. None came, and then, what I was thinking, what? Oliver found himself drifting off. It was bad enough being told that he was going to have to dress up as a boring ingredient for the parade. It was even worse having to listen to Sniffle waffling on about his far more interesting parts. I think Oliver should do it, he heard Bully Bogey say suddenly. Oliver snapped out of his thoughts with the rest of the team looking at him. Oliver mumbled, not wanting to admit he hadn't been listening. As it's such an important job, you want somebody mature and sensible, Bully went on. Like Oliver. Sybil's beam was positively radiant. Oh, would you do that, Oliver? Would you really? He asked hopefully. Oliver hesitated. What were they talking about? He had absolutely no idea. Okay, he agreed, crossing his fingers. Surely this important job he was agreeing to couldn't be worse than being a potion or an ingredient, could it? Smashing Sniffle said, clapping Oliver on the back. We'll supply you with bin bags, of course. After all, litter collecting is very important. Oliver's mouth dropped in horror. Litter collecting? Had he really just agreed to be a litter collector? One of Bully Bogeywatt's smirk told him the awful truth. Yes, there would be no dressing up for him, no jumping into a huge cauldron with all the others. Instead, Oliver Moon would be the back of the team's procession, picking up red and purple stars and putting them in bin bags. Not the best job at all.